everybody. My name is Kata, and I'm a personal trainer and functional aging specialist, and I typically work with the 50 and better crowd. So today I'm going to go over squats. So that's one of the things that I've noticed as we age becomes very important in being able to get up and down off of furniture, being able to get up and down off of the floor, and then also being able to get in and out of bed and up and down off of the toilet whenever you go to the bathroom. So we do need to be able to do squats and chair stands if that works a little bit better for you. So I'm going to go over a quick little tutorial today to show you how you can practice working on squats, a couple of things that you want to avoid, and how to hopefully make things a little bit better. I am doing this barefoot because I have found that for me personally, I prefer the feeling of doing my squats barefoot. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, try it at home. So try practicing doing your squats and chair stands barefoot at home. And then, if you really get into lifting, try to look at shoes that maybe don't have the really thick soles, or the soles are fairly level all the way across the board. Wear what feels comfortable. If you're in orthotics because of your doctor prescribing them, go ahead and stick with them. But I have found for me personally that I prefer to practice and to do my squats with my feet as level as I can, and it also helps me feel the ground and where I'm pushing through. So maybe give them a shot just when you're at home and you feel more comfortable on carpet or on wood flooring, and then wear shoes when you go to the gym. So first thing I'm going to kind of go over is foot position. So depending on the shape of your femur, that big bone in your upper thigh, toes pointing forwards might feel good to you. For some people, turning their toes out a little bit may also feel good. So part of it is going to depend on the shape of your hips, but then part of it is also going to depend on whether or not you're a little bit tight. I know quite a few people that have started to become more duck-footed as they age, because their hips are very tight. But on the other note, I know people who are starting to become a little pigeon-toed. So the thing to remember is wherever your toes are pointing, that's the direction your knees need to go as well. So we don't want to have our feet turned out and then push our knees forwards and have our knees coming in. So we want to think that our knees should track between our big toe and our pinky toe for the most part. So we're going to have our toes about hip width apart, maybe a little bit wider. And then we're going to turn, either have our toes forward, or we're going to turn them out just a little bit, not a lot. So we're not dancers, most of us, so just a little bit. And we're just going to start by rolling our shoulders back, thinking about pulling your belly button in. And we're just going to push the hips back and then come forward again. So I'm not actively moving my knees or my upper body. I'm just pushing my hips back. So imagine you've got 2 bags full of groceries and you've still got to shut the car door. So what do? We just kind of bop our butts back and then come up nice and tall. So just push back and come back up. Let's do that a couple more times. So just back and up. And a good way to practice this is to have your backside against a wall, touch your butt to the wall, and then stand up again. So a couple of the things that I see a lot of when people are doing squats is they keep their chest lifted, they push their hips back, and then all of a sudden they feel they have to keep this perfect upright posture, and they start pushing their knees forwards. And you don't want to do that. That's one of the reasons why people say, oh, squats hurt my knees. So what you want to do is your weight is in your midfoot in your heel. You're going to push your hips back like you're sitting in a chair, and then you're going to keep pushing back, keeping your chest fairly lifted, but you're going to push and bend the knees and the hips at about the same rate. And notice my knees and my upper body are about both at 45 degrees. It's not perfect, but it's close. Then we're going to push through our heels, squeeze our glutes, and stand up nice and tall. So let's try that a couple times. And they don't have to be deep. Just focus on pushing your hips back. So push the hips back. Keep pushing the hips back as your hips and your knees start to bend, and push through the heels and squeeze the glutes. Let's do a couple more. So even if it's very shallow and I'm only going part way down, I can still feel the weight in my heels. Good, let's try one more time. So push back, and the knees are gonna go a little forward, but we wanna try to keep them over our shoelaces as much as possible, okay? The other thing that I see a lot of is you push your hips back, get down about as far as you feel comfortable going, and then all of a sudden we bend over so that we can get closer to the floor. And we want to try not to do that. So we just want to think, push the hips back. And if this is as far as you can go because your knees start getting a really crunchy feeling and they just don't feel good, that's where you stop. You don't have to do the forward fold to get closer to the ground, okay? So let's try a couple of shallow squats. So chest is lifted, we're gonna push our hips back, we're gonna go shallow, and then we're gonna come back up again. Good, let's do one more. So pushing back, and then come back up. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit. We're gonna try one more thing, and another option, if you need to get closer to the floor to pick something up, sometimes taking your legs wider will help a little bit. So toes a little bit out, and we're going to make sure, remember that we don't want to have our toes wide and then our knees going in. We want to push back and again, kind of sink into those hips, and a wider stance will get you a little bit closer to the ground just from the start. So let's try that a couple of times. So take your legs a little bit wider. I'm on some flooring. I've got about 5 or 6 pieces of wood between my feet. You might just have 2 or 3 depending on how wide they are. But nice and tall, we're going to push the hips back, and we're going to imagine we're picking something up right between our feet. So we don't want to go forward, right between our feet, push through the heels to stand up. Good, 2 more of these. So nice and tall, push, and come back up. And I'm going to turn sideways for the last one. So wider stance, so still pushing the hips back, sinking down, and coming back up. So those are a few things that you can work on. So try a foot position and see which one feels better, but also make sure that you're trying to keep your chest upright and pushing the hips back and keeping the weight in the heels. Everybody is a little bit different. It may just be that your ankles don't quite have the mobility. It may be that your hips are a little bit tight, or you may not quite have the core strength yet. But these are all things that you can work on. So even as you progress through these squats, start shallow and just remember quality over quantity, and making sure they're good squats versus trying to make them the deepest squats that you possibly can. So just focus on good squats, weight in the heels, squeezing the glutes, and you'll definitely improve. So I hope this helped a little bit. I will be back later for another tutorial. I'm thinking maybe push-ups, but we'll have to see. We might stick with the lower body and go with lunges. So if you have any ideas on what you would like to see, you can put them in the comments below, and I will work on that as a tutorial. So have a wonderful day, everybody, and I will see you soon.